first thing, Scott, how long has this been in place? Because this isn't something that happens overnight. It's years in the process.
How long has it taken
How long
to
has it
get
taken?
there?
And let's go back. When did this? You first
This
start
is
thinking
this
on
has
this?
been a process. We've actually been working on all of our infrastructure for the last 10 years. All new construction in the housing developments, all commercial developments, they've been fiber or fiber optic facilities. So fiber to the home, fiber to the premise. So all new construction, if you've got a house in the Bixby footprint during that period of time, most likely you've got fiber optic technology to your house today.
How long is that? Because that's an extensive process and planning period. How long has this been going on from planning to conception to today? I mean, you're ready to roll the product out.
Let me answer it this way. The goal of gigabit internet is something that only came about in the last few years. The goal of the most advanced telecommunications capability is something we've been striving for all along. So when we've been doing our building, our infrastructure, we've been planning and putting the fiber infrastructure in place, getting as much of our plant buried. I don't know if you realize this or not, but over 90% of all of our outside plant facilities, or the lines that support the customer's locations, that's buried. So our survivability from storms and things like that is greatly improved over any other provider. Now, this is all important because while we've been doing this has been building up the expertise of our individual employees. So our capabilities have been built upon, our infrastructure has been built upon, and then there's been some technology advancements that have made this a possibility. It's only been in the last couple of years that people have been talking about gigabit connectivity to the home. It was almost akin to the moonshot thing that, when John F. Kennedy said by, the end of this decade we will have a man on the moon, there was the first people out of the gate was Google Fiber. You have to give Google some credit for kind of getting the conversation going and setting the bar very high and getting people thinking about the consumer having gigabit capability. And then you have to have the equipment manufacturers start making equipment that will work at that level for the kind of transport that goes out to the consumer's house. So it worked out that we had the foresight to do the planning to get all of that infrastructure in place, and then the technology change and market changes made it start coming together, where we had an opportunity to let Bixby become the first in the state to have this capability. And of course, we jumped on it.
Now how many markets have this capability in the country right now? I guess Dallas and Kansas City.
That's a good question, because there's a lot of people that announce that they're going to do something, and then if you read the details, they say, well, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do it over a 2 or 3 or 4 year period of time, and they're talking about a build out plan. And of course, that's what it takes, is you do have to have a build out plan. But the good news is we built out already 45 neighborhoods and housing additions, and about 100 houses per addition. That ended up being 4,500 to 4,600 homes or households that have that ability today. So we're taking orders for the service today. So to answer your question, you have to look at who has it today. That's changing rapidly, but it was a handful, 2 or 3 or 4 that had the service turned up today, take the order, turn up service. But that's changing every day. We're seeing more and more that are coming online. And what you'll see is you'll find some, for example, I saw another provider had announced they were going to do it in a Virginia suburb, and they were literally talking about one addition, one small addition, and where we're talking about something that's coming pretty close to half the population of the Bixby footprint can have this capability. And there's another 17 housing additions that are planned to expand that to something like 6,000 households will be able to have this capability.
Scott, this is going to have a tremendous impact on BTC, the company. I mean, it just opens doors that, you guys have done a great job before, but it just opens doors that wider than they've ever been kicked. You're kicking the doors down, is what you're doing. But this whole community is going to benefit from this. And do people, are they starting to realize now from the press release and the news in the last couple of days, do people start to realize how big of a deal this really is?
They are. And it's interesting, some of the feedback that we've already gotten. The excitement in the community, first off, yes, it's going to be good for BTC broadband, but it's going to be even better for the Bixby community because this is important. This helps companies who are trying to determine where they're going to locate when they build new businesses. It helps them decide because they want their employees to have the highest quality of life possible, and it's gotten to the point where internet is almost an essential life service. It's just like water and power and good roads. You've got to have that good internet infrastructure because it's become such an integral part of society. We've already heard of businesses. We've had a couple reach out to us. We've already heard of some talking to other businesses in town looking to locate in some of the open spaces around here. That's great news. We're very excited about that because it just helps the whole community, and of course what's good for the community helps us too.
Yeah. And I know it's early, but has the city done any, because the lifeblood of any city is sales tax revenue, and I know that city manager and things like that, Doug Innevolson, has to be beside himself with this one. But have you seen any initial estimates as far as the economic impact a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road yet, or is that too early?
I think it's way too early. But you're right. The excitement is there. The city. It's funny. You have to try to understand this. People have to try to figure out, well, what exactly is a gig? How does that relate? What does that mean to me? And the same is true when it comes to almost anybody trying to get that perspective. The city's trying to fully understand that and embrace it, and so they can communicate it when they do their economic development type work. And most likely, some of the professional firms that help companies locate to different areas will see this and will be able to provide them with some additional information. I think after they've had a little time, the city will then be able to gauge the impact that it will have. But so far, early indications are just outstanding.
I can imagine. I guess one of the last things I really kind of wanted to cover is that people have a hard time. I mean, because you're talking about technology and speeds that people have only dreamed of. Mm-hmm. It's almost
internet nirvana is what
exactly.
I heard someone say. That's not my original statement. I heard it and I thought that's pretty good.
It's almost internet fiction. I mean, or internet fantasy.
That's
now.
True.
And I know you guys. I saw a couple things on TV, just quick sound bites and all. But can you get into maybe, Scott, just real briefly? Maybe just some examples. Say, for example, somebody wants to download a 2-hour movie, and we're talking about an hour to download it before, probably at normal speeds, if you were lucky.
That's a very good. Yes, that's about right. With gigabit capability, and we're going to put a little proviso here. The consumer will have the gigabit capability. Wherever they're downloading it from needs to have appropriate speed too. You're only going to go as fast as that slowest point in the chain. But let's say it's Netflix, and Netflix has been able to sense that you have the gigabit capability. A 2-hour standard definition movie can download in 8 seconds. 8 seconds. A 2-hour high definition movie, assuming that you've got proper speed on both sides, can download in 38 seconds. Now, these are all theoretical numbers based on the calculations. There's always some things that can impact that, but that gives you a little bit of an idea of the scale. You went from close to an hour to download it. In fact, if you've ever downloaded on Netflix and you watch that little progress bar on the download, you almost want to pause for a little bit before you start watching so you can let it get ahead of it, and then hopefully it all downloads in time. You won't have that issue anymore. You can start watching a movie and then decide, I don't want this one, I'll try another one. And about as quickly as you can put your remote down, it's already ready for you to watch. So that's phenomenal. Think of the the empowerment that the consumer has on their own personal time.
And, Scott, I guess the last thing was is there anything that's and I'll just kind of leave this to you, and we'll kind of edit into it as we need to. Is there any information that as far as, because like I said, this is only going to go to Bixby. We're not, we're not like everybody else. We're trying to broadcast it to the world. And
Right.
I don't care about Bixby. I don't live in Bixby. But so this is our market. We want Bixby here. So is there anything that either hasn't come out, or maybe you feel that has come out that maybe needs some clarification, or just something that you would want people of Bixby to know about this?
I want them to know how unique this is.
I
The
think I
ability.
interrupted you. Could you just start with that? You want them to know how? I think I stepped on you there. So.
Oh, I don't think so. But anyway, I want the residents of Bixby to know how unique this is, because in order for other neighborhoods to get gigabit speed, other providers are going to have to do an enormous investment in deploying technology out there. So there are certain areas that won't get this capability for years. So the people of Bixby need to be very proud and pretty happy with the fact that they've got this kind of capability. And then the second thing is just a little bit of a, this is almost going to sound like a downer. I want to come back and explain to people that even though you've got that gigabit speed, it's always only going to go as fast as the machine or the application that you're trying to connect to, or your own equipment. That's another thing. A lot of the technology that's out there has to get up to this speed, but there's a lot of it that's happening, and technology changes fast.
You buy a computer today, and by next week it's out of date. So,
Exactly.
Okay. I think I'll just lease one. So, Scott, that's really it. We'll edit that down to probably 3 or 4 minutes, and like I said, just I just think it's huge. I mean, it's a huge deal.
One more thing. This is so new. There's some things that we're still finding out about it, and just so that you know, the ONT, the fiber has an optical network terminal that connects it to the house. It's the interface that it comes into. The ONT that is for this gigabit capability has a thing called a gigacenter, which is kind of like the piece of equipment that the consumer is going to interface to. We're going to rent that to the customer. They're not going to have to buy any other equipment. We're going to rent that piece of equipment to them, and it already has the technology in it to take advantage of gigabit Wi-Fi. So the consumers aren't going to have to keep going out and buying all this stuff. They'll be able to use this gigacenter thing, and it actually will let them take the greatest advantage of the gigabit capabilities. Now, I don't know if you want to weave that in anywhere. I was just kind of letting you know.
I do, because I think everybody goes wireless nowadays. I mean, I don't remember the last time I connected to my router.
Right.
Hardwire.
Most people want that ability to have the wireless capability. They just want to come in, bring it up, and honestly, they don't want to mess with it. They just want it to be there and they want it to work. This is a technology where when their device has the ability to go at a gigabit speed, then our device will also be able to connect to them and support that Wi-Fi capability. So that is the intelligent way to go.